Good morning, everybody. Good morning and happy Thursday. I can't believe it's Thursday already. That seems totally crazy, but it is. It is Thursday. Hope you guys are doing well. Very choppy market here, pre-market too. Been looking at tracking at the futures and stuff all morning, and it's just been nothing but a chop fest. So good morning to just kind of watch as opposed to do something here so far. But I'm hoping, and I think we are going to see a bit of a pickup here in one direction or another, which does remind me that we do very much remain in a trading environment, specifically intraday, right? There's not a whole lot on a swing trading side here that's working unless it's just long. Some things are working. I'll show you guys a couple things. I've got some 4 different tickers I want to go through here this morning in the next 10 minutes or so. We'll start in about a minute or so. Quickly just check where we are here. That's this one here. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. All right, here we go. All right, trying to get my cameras right. There we go. All right, let's get started. Good morning, everybody. This is our Set the Market morning show. I'm Serge Berger from The Steady Trader. We're going to spend the next 10 to 15 minutes going through some of the things that are on our radar here this morning. As always, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. You give us a thumbs up, like. It's very important so that we can actually continue to do the show and so that you are updated in real time when we go live with with these analyses. This morning, I want to look at a few things. We're going to look at copper. There's a new move there we want to be cognizant of, and it lines up with China. FXI is the ETF there. We'll look at that. We'll look at KWEB. We'll look at Boeing, which is making a move. We'll look at Visa, and ultimately, we should start off with the dollar. So I would say let's do that. And again, hopefully you guys can all hear me, so then we should be in good shape here to go. Let's start off with the dollar, as I said a minute ago. So there's a couple things here that I want to point out with the dollar. It's sort of a follow-on to what I mentioned yesterday. And basically what we're seeing here, and if I zoom in a bit closer, you can see this even better. These 2 lines here are showing us the positive correlation that we've seen between the dollar, which is the blue line, and the S&P 500, which is the red line. You can see broadly they move together. It's not a minute by minute or even day to day thing, but for the most part the correlation is pretty positive, and for the most part the positive correlation is most notable since late September, call that early October or so of last year. Now that correlation can change. It's going to depend on bond yields, but that's kind of where we're at. So the dollar, for the most part, on its own, the DXY ETF, I'll quickly show you that here, is still in a process where it could be in a topping process. I don't know. We're watching this very closely. It's going to have major impacts on the equity market. And of course, along with yields, those are some of the macro factors we need to watch. But as far as I'm concerned, it's too early for me to say that the dollar has topped. I think there's a good chance it may have, but again, I'm just a bit too early on that to make that call entirely. So that's quickly number 1, more as of a heads up. I know most of you guys don't give a shit about that, but it's actually really important, just so you know. It actually drives equity prices. So let's have a look on sort of the bigger picture that kind of drives a lot of activity outside of U.S. markets. And here we're looking at is at the top is the FXI ETF, which represents the Chinese large cap stocks. And you can actually see overnight in Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index actually closed up another 1.4%. Why do you care about that? You may not care, but I like it because the FXI ETF, which essentially tracks that, this is a US listed ETF, should on the back of that be breaking out this morning on this. Now, that does not mean it's going to continue ripping higher without a pause, but it does, to me, give me more and more of bullish tailwinds for this. Now, we'll see if it works out. I don't know, but we'll find out over the course of time. So what I like about it even more is I like the fact that copper seems to be in agreement with this. So what I did here on this chart is I took the two ETFs, so the FXI ETF at the top, and then at the bottom I took the copper ETF, so the CPER ETF. And you can see that there is a pretty positive correlation between these two. And you can see that copper is once again telling us something about global demand. And a good part of the global demand tends to come from China. Copper is a global story. We need a lot of copper to build out the electricity demand and everything that we have in the West as well. But China has a lot of copper demand as well. So I like the fact that FXI is going higher, or the HSI, which is the Hang Seng Index, and FXI is a US listed ETF that tracks it, is moving higher. So again, I don't know if anyone cares here, but I'm telling you, once your favorite NVIDIA stocks and those things are not going to go higher anymore, you're going to wish and hope and pray that you would have looked at something other than those few stocks. So, at least for diversification purposes, we want to look at other stuff as well. So we like this. We're actually adding it to a few of the alerts this morning. So if you're subscribing to a couple of, like the Market Roar, for example, or ETF Sala, you'll see some alerts going out on some of those things. So I like this. If you look at copper in isolation, just for those of you that have not heard us talk about copper, I'll show you the copper futures chart, which is the same as the CPER chart. But the copper futures chart, you really have to kind of zoom out for it to be attractive. And let me make that a bit more clear so you can see this. Here's CPER, and what we see here again, it's the chart is one thing, and of course the fundamentals behind it, the incredible demand behind copper ultimately should lead to a breakout. Now on the daily charts, this is the long-term chart going back to 2009 is when the consolidation, or even 2007 where the consolidation period started to take place. In the near term, and this is kind of what we're seeing here with the move in China stocks as well. What we're seeing is this move here. We're seeing this near-term move here higher. Maybe coming into some resistance, but again, this is quite a dynamic situation. So we want to be able to respect this in multiple time frames. So I'm watching this very closely. I think it could be interesting for a move higher. So let's watch this, and if it works, then FXI and the KWEB, which is the Chinese internet stocks ETF, US listed, they all should have more upside. Same thing with BABA, which took a knee for the past couple of days because of the rumors of the United States Postal Service stopping some shipments, which they in the end, I guess, decided not to do. But I think there's a real story here that's quite interesting. So I do want to be mindful of this. And then the other part that I want to point out is two individual stocks. We actually talked about Visa earlier this week. We said that it's getting very overbought, and we talked about the stock having that sort of give up day last week on Friday. It's since crawling higher, so I don't think it's ready yet. We need an actual down day for this to be something where the stock will then mean revert. We're not there. The whole market's still pushing higher. So just a quick update on that. And then one more stock that we want to talk about is Boeing. I've been talking about Boeing for some time. I said it's it'll be ready at some point. I want to wait for earnings, And so that's kind of exactly where we are right now. So Boeing is a stock that is looking better and better, at least from a near-term perspective. Ultimately, you do have to think about um, this as a stock that is very important to the United States as a company, and so it's very unlikely they're going to let this one go. It's systemically important. So I think there's a real chance that now that earnings are out of the way, that this stock can kind of find further footing. If you like to navel gaze at a simple moving average, then you can kind of see how it's holding above some of these moving averages. That's a single factor input, but it's helpful to know. But I think Boeing here, if it holds up here, it was a good day yesterday, up 3% and change. This could be a pretty interesting story. So those are a couple things you're watching. So dollar index again, potentially in the topping process. It's too early to call. Number one, number two, FXI and copper. So FXI or CPER, both of those ETFs are looking better and better. And then Boeing as a single name stock looks really interesting here. Again, if you want to do an options trade, if that's your thing, you can figure that out. We're not giving advice here. Obviously, it's just for educational purposes. So that's where we're at. A couple of questions coming in. JV wants to know about the 10-year. Yeah, I mean, look, 10-year yields, we still think we're in a higher inflation for longer environment. And so what we're probably going to see is 10-year yields back higher towards 4.9 to 5% at some point. I think what we're seeing here is still a bit of uncertainty, and so that's why you're seeing a bit of a bid in treasuries. But if inflation remains, like for example yesterday we had news about you have to think about this from a deficit spending perspective. So like the U.S. government's trying to get rid of all sorts of unnecessary spending, and that's a good thing. But at the same, and they'll be able to find, a dozen billion here and there and so on and so forth. The problem is they're going to spend that money somewhere else. So it's not like net, the inflationary forces are going away. They're just shifting to other parts. Like the news on Gaza yesterday, however, what everyone makes of that, the point is that's more spending, right? And so I think that's really important. So we think 10-year will go higher again. And again, if we reach that high 4s towards 5, that's going to be one way that the equity market could come under further pressure. And William is asking, what do you think about the U.S. imports changing impacts in Alabama? I don't know. I don't think anyone knows. There's a lot of speculation, and that's really what the markets are telling us right now. Markets will climb the wall of worry, all else being equal. And so I think that's kind of where we're at. We're just kind of stuck in a range for the U.S. equity market, for U.S. large cap equity, so the Amazons and the S&P 500 of the world. So there's not a whole lot. Honestly, everyone I talked to four institutional investors yesterday, and we're all saying the same thing. It's just we're just kind of waiting for a bit more clarity, and that's what the equity market's telling us as well. And with 10-year yields coming in, people are buying a bit of bonds here, so that makes sense as well. Dennis is asking, what do you think of Amazon earnings? I have absolutely no idea. We don't speculate on earnings. What I can tell you is that whatever Amazon's going to do is going to be important for parts of the market, right? Amazon is part of, like, for example, the XLY ETF. So you're going to want to watch what consumer discretionary stocks are going to do. I don't know. I mean, I can tell you quickly, Amazon obviously is bullish trend on the market rover. Let me quickly show you that. So here is Amazon on the market rover. So it's absolutely bullish trend, but that does not mean that I'm not gonna have a trade through earnings. I don't do that. I've done this for 26 years, trading through an earnings report on a hopes of a certain immediate outcome after earnings is typically a gamble. I know people think otherwise right now, but we do live in a gambling bubble, so people have a different thought on that. But I would wait until after earnings, to be honest with you, Dennis, from a trading perspective. Let's see what happens with Amazon after earnings, and then we'll have a better idea, and we can touch on that here in the chat room, in the Trade Ops chat room, and otherwise, for those of you guys that are coming to this morning show next week on Monday. And Steve is asking, what about gold? Is it getting frothy? Look, I keep saying the same thing about gold. Gold, potentially near-term frothy, that's entirely possible, but I don't think the story with gold is anywhere near over. Again, on the Market Rover, which is what I follow, what we follow to make sure we're in the right trends, I started buying gold based on fundamental reasons in, I believe, September 2023. But then we got the final confirmation in when the chart went into the green territory in mid-January of last year. So now 13 months ago. Since then, gold is now up more than 40%. And the trend isn't changing. I don't think the trend is going to change. What you might see is more choppiness at some point, but the underlying demand for the reasons for why gold is going higher are not going away. You know, there's more uncertainty. There's a wider dispersion of potential outcomes. And ultimately, you know, we're seeing the debasement of currencies. It's still happening. It's not like that's changing. So, you know, if the trend changes, hey, you know, use the Market Rover. It'll tell you. I'll do my best to keep you guys abreast of it here as well. Maybe one more thing from a momentum perspective. For those of you guys using the TST Trender indicator, and I hope everyone in here is, I did want to just quickly keep you updated. We did send out a trade alert about a week and a half ago or a week ago, or a little more than a week ago, I think, on Newmont Mining. This is, of course, a gold mining company, and that stock has now reached its first profit target at 45 yesterday. So if you're following that trade, if you're a TST Trender member, just keep that in mind. We may send out an email alert to close it at some point. I'm not there yet. I still think it can go higher, but that trade is working out nicely. It's up whatever 5, 6, 7, 8% since our entry point, something like that. I haven't checked exactly, but so that's what's happening there. So anyway, folks, that's it. I'll see you guys over in the Trade Ops chat room in a few minutes. Hopefully, we'll get a bit of movement here in these markets. Yesterday was another opportunity-filled day. We had a futures trade that was on basically all day yesterday in the NASDAQ futures. If you are a TST Trender member, we are doing a member session at 11 o'clock Eastern time this morning. So that's in like an hour and 45 minutes. So I'll see you guys there as well. And we're back here in the morning show on Monday, this coming Monday. We don't do it on Fridays. I may skip a day or two next week because I'm supposed to take a few days off next week, but I think we'll do it on Monday to kick off the week, and then we'll take it from there. Have a great day. I'll see you guys in the chat room. And again, TST Trender members, and in an hour and 45 minutes at 11 o'clock Eastern for our member session today. Take care and see you soon.